Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a little sit down video. I'm going to be talking about my very first pregnancy. I'm on my third pregnancy right now, but I started making videos after my second daughter was born, so I never got to kind of document their birth stories. And now just thinking ahead of like once I have this baby and I do her birth story, third baby girl. By the way, right now I did have very different, well not very different, but they were both, yes, different kind of birth stories. So for this one, it kind of was appropriate to do as well because my firstborn is going to be 5 on Friday in a couple of days. So I figured this would be a nice way to kind of just think back to that time when I was pregnant with her and I had her as my first pregnancy. If you guys are interested in hearing about my first birth, my first child birth experience, just go ahead and keep on watching. So I got pregnant with my first daughter in 2013, so in October of 2013, and then she was due July 27th, 26, something like that, and I ended up having her exactly a week early, so I had her at exactly 39 weeks. So her birthday is July 19th, and yeah, so she's gonna be 5 years old in a few days. And when I got pregnant with her, I had a really smooth, easy like pregnancy. I didn't really get I probably got nauseous a handful of times, but I never threw up. I never had morning sickness. I like just breezed through my pregnancy. I remember I was working at the time, and then I got a new job during my pregnancy at a school, and then I finished out that semester, which the semester ends in May, and then I had the summer like off. So I spent the last 2 months-ish, month and a half of my pregnancy not working, so that was really nice. I ended up being able to rest and sleep and take it easy, and I feel like that was my easiest pregnancy just because I didn't have another baby to look after. I didn't like have any job to go to at the very end. And at the time, Ramses was finishing nursing school, so that May, right before Jet was born, he finished nursing school. And then like right that next month, he got his first job. So everything was kind of, the timing just kind of fell into place. I was living at my mom's at the time, and then Ramses was like living with me too pretty much. And then once Jet got here in July, he was like living with me like full time at my mom's. So I figured I'd give you guys a little bit of a backstory before the actual birth story, since like I said, I don't have any like videos on my pregnancies. But yeah, that was just kind of the overall summary of my pregnancy, my first pregnancy. It was a breeze. So I tell everyone that I think it's just because I didn't have, like I said, another baby. When I had my second child, I had Jet to look after too. I couldn't just sleep and do whatever I wanted like the first time around. So the day that I actually went into labor, Ramses was working. He worked like 2 to 10 or something, like 10 p.m. I remember I was home all day with my mom and my sister and my dad, and I was just like having Braxton Hicks. And when it's your first pregnancy, you're like, was that a Braxton Hicks or was that a real contraction, or so you're unsure. So I didn't take anything or do anything super special to like induce my labor at all. So what I was doing all day that day was just like hanging out at home. I didn't really like do anything or go anywhere. But then the more often I was getting the contractions, like I wasn't getting them every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes, every 20 minutes. Like I wasn't getting them consistently at a certain amount of time, but I was getting them like all day long. And so by the time it got to like when Ramses was getting home, I had drank like 2 or 3 or 4 maybe cups of manzanilla, and that's a chamomile tea. So I had drank like, I don't know why I was like doing that. I think I had heard that it helps, or I don't know, but I had like drank like 3 or 4 cups, so I was like peeing a lot. And then I was sitting on a medicine ball, So I would sit on the medicine ball and then like lean on the bed and then just kind of bounce on the medicine ball, and then I would get up and go pee, and then I would come back and bounce on the medicine ball. So by the time Rams got home, it was like 10:30 or so, and at night he like laid down. He was like literally about to go to bed, and we had the TV on, whatever, and I was like on the medicine ball, like just hunched over. But keep in mind, like I wasn't now I can tell you, like now I know, I wasn't having like real contractions. I was just having baby contractions, and I was having like Braxton Hicks. So in that time frame, I didn't have like the real contractions. So then once he laid down, then I was like bouncing on the medicine ball. I got up because I was like, oh, I need to go pee. I literally like stood up, took like 2 steps, and when I reached, like when I separated my legs to like reach for the doorknob, I just felt like fluid coming out of me, and I was like, oh my god, I feel like I just like peed myself. But it was enough to where it went through my pants, and then it was like dripping on the carpet. I was like, oh my gosh, my water broke. I was like, my water just broke. And like Ramses got up and he like looked, and he's like, all right, well, let's go, like, you know. And keep in mind, like Ramses is a nurse, and his demeanor is very calm. He's like a perfect person to be a nurse. He's great in emergency situations. So he was just like, all right, well, let's go, you know, whatever, go clean up and this and that. I was like, okay. So I opened the door, and I'm just like standing there. And then I called my sister because her bedroom was right down the hallway. And I'm like, Marcella, go tell mom my water just broke. So she like runs down, and she's like, oh my god, like freaking out. So at the time she was like, what, this was like 5 years ago. So she was like 13 at the time. So she like goes and tells my parents. So I go and I just change. And at this point, like my water didn't completely break. It was just the beginning, like it kind of punctured and some of the fluid came out. So I went to the bathroom, I changed my pants, I took a quick like shower, rinsed off, we got our stuff, and then our hospital is 30 minutes away from where we live. So we got in the car, we drove over there. Like I was totally fine. My contractions were still the same as they were like when I was at home, like as far as intensity. It wasn't a big deal. We're chilling, driving to the hospital. And then it was, at this point, it was almost midnight. So we pull up, and you know, when it's that late, you have to like ring like the doorbell technically at the sliding door for the maternity area. So so Ramses pulls up, but it's like a huge parking lot. So Ramses is like, well, here, go ahead and get off. So that way you can go ring the bell, and I'll go park. That way you don't have to walk that far. And I was like, okay. So he drops me off like on the curb. As soon as I get out of the car, the rest of my water breaks like all over my legs, all down my legs. So I was like, oh my god. I was like, okay, that was not pee. Like that's definitely like the rest of my water breaking. So I get to the sliding doors, like they buzz me in, whatever. So as soon as you get there, you have to sign some papers and, you know, and like check yourself in. So at this point, when the rest of my water broke, I was dying. I was like, I could barely sign the papers on the counter. Like my body was like, I was like hunched over the counter, like signing papers. I don't even know what I was signing, and I was just going through the real contractions. So we were hanging out in the triage for a little bit while we got like the results back to see if it was amniotic fluid. And then we were waiting for a room for a little bit. So I remember when I was pregnant, I didn't say yes, for sure I'm gonna get the epidural, but I didn't say no, I'm gonna ride this out, I'm gonna, you know, whatever. So I was very open-minded. I was like, okay, well, we'll see how it goes. You know, if I feel like it's too much and I need it, then I'll ask for it. If I'm okay and I can push through it, then, you know, I'll push through it. So at this point, when I got there, I was dilated like to a 2 or a 3. So they got me into a room, and then I was trying to, you know, push through the contractions. And the big difference from the first labor to the second one was that the first labor was like a lot longer, and we kind of told everyone that I was in labor, and everybody showed up. It was just a little more stressful, I feel like, or I don't know if it would be, I would say stressful, but it was just like, yeah, you don't really care about anybody that's in there just because you're, you know, you got other things on your mind, but it was just a little more uncomfortable, I feel like. But yeah, so like everybody started showing up once we got a room. I was going through the contractions, you know, whatever. So then I was dealing with the contractions for about, I want to say till like 3 in the morning, 3:30, and at that point I was dilated to a 6, and then I remember being like, please, I need an epidural. I just needed a break. I was just really exhausted, so I ended up getting the epidural at about 3 in the morning, and after that I was chilling, just eating my ice chips. The baby's oxygen level did go down a little bit, so they gave me an oxygen like mask. So but after that she was like totally fine. It was just kind of a precautionary thing. So then they would kind of turn me to my side with a like little peanut medicine ball between my legs, and then turn me to the other side, and I kind of got a few hours of sleep. And then all morning they just kept checking me, and then I would be like half a centimeter, and then 1 centimeter, half a centimeter, 1 centimeter, like every few hours. So I was progressing, but it just slowed down a lot. So then at about 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. the next day, my doctor came in. He's like, okay, he's like, well, oh no. He came in at about 1 p.m. and he said that, he's like, all right, well, in about an hour, we're going to start pushing. And I was like, okay. Sure enough, at about 2 o'clock, they came in, got me all set up. I had Ramses on this side holding my leg. I had my mom, I had Ramses' mom in the room, and my grandma in the room, and everybody was just, you know, watching me push this baby out. And I would push for 10 seconds, and then they would have me rest, and then push for 10 seconds, have me rest. And sometimes I would push more than 10 seconds, just because even though you have the epidural, you still feel the pressure of the baby coming out. So like I would feel like when I would be pushing that she would be coming out, and then when I would stop she would kind of like go back in a little bit. So like I just started pushing for as long as I could, and not just the 10 seconds. So I ended up pushing for an hour, and she was born at like 2:58 p.m. So she was born at almost 3 p.m. So I pushed for almost exactly an hour, and she was born. After that I did end up getting an episiotomy. If you don't know what an episiotomy is, it's when the doctor cuts you so that it relieves the pressure and the baby can come out a little bit easier. Google it. If you're watching this, you probably have had a baby already, or it's your first baby and you already know what that means. But basically they do it so they can stitch you up a little bit easier, as opposed to you tearing yourself. They can do the cut a lot cleaner, and they can, you know, stitch it up a lot easier. So I did end up getting an episiotomy. After she was born, she was almost 8, she was like 7.5 pounds, no, 7 pounds 14 ounces, so she was almost 8 pounds. She was pretty big. And like I said earlier, she was a week early, so I had her at exactly 39 weeks. So I ended up getting the epidural, you know, out of my back and everything. And it's kind of weird when you get the epidural, because you can't like get up and do anything. So I had been on fluids since I had gotten checked into the room, so for a lot of hours, I don't know, like maybe at least since like 2 in the morning, maybe to 2 the next day, 2 in the afternoon. So I was at least on fluids for like 12 hours. So my experience postpartum was okay, I would say. They give you everything at the hospital, so that's really nice. And they give you everything for if you get an episiotomy or if you tear, things to relieve your area down there. And they give you like the big panties. And my first meal after I gave birth was chicken Alfredo from Olive Garden. I had Ramses bring me some after I had her. I did breastfeed. I had a little bit of trouble when I first had her. She wouldn't latch on right, so I was using a nipple guard. So it's basically like a nipple for your nipple, and it like so when and then the baby will like latch onto the nipple, the plastic nipple that you put, and it'll kind of forms your nipple, like, because when the baby sucks, like obviously your nipple will kind of go into the little tunnel of it, you know. And after a while, when I went home with her, I would have to use it every time I would nurse her. So I would say like within that week or two, I just stopped using it, and then I tried just giving her my bare nipple, you know, and she ended up latching on and nursing great. The first 2 weeks of nursing was brutal. I remember I would like literally nurse her and like close my eyes and just like think about something else because it hurts so badly. Like, it's literally just, you know, like rubbed raw, and they still have to nurse, so it just like burns and hurts so bad. TMI, you guys are getting all the information. So yeah, the first 2 weeks were pretty bad. I did not give her any formula or anything when she was first born. I was pumping. I was producing a lot of milk. I didn't really do anything special to get a lot of milk. I just did. I'm pretty chesty myself, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it. So yeah, I had a lot of milk. I had to pump. I would like feed her and then I would have to pump. So I know a lot of people have that issue with like they don't know if the baby's getting enough. I definitely knew the baby was getting enough just because I had like just excess amount of milk. So I would have to pump after I would feed her, and so yeah, I did. I had a really nice stash of milk, but I didn't stay like diligently on giving her like a bottle a day. I should have, now knowing what I know now, but I probably should have gotten her used to at least a bottle a day, just so, you know, I could have a little freedom here and there. But she didn't end up liking really any bottles. Sometimes when I would, you know, take her to my mom's or my in-laws, I would take them milk that I would have stashed. So yeah, she would drink it here and there, but it wasn't like she could go all day without breastfeeding or anything. So yeah, it's definitely something this time around I told Ramses that I think I'd like to do, just to have a little more freedom and not have, and the baby not be so picky, you know, and just rely on me all the time, just because, you know, it comes in handy. So especially for that mom guilt or like worry when like I would go get my nails done or want to go to the store or like do anything, like I would have to like work my way around feeding the baby. So yeah, I feel like I had really great support after I gave birth. I was asked if like I wanted a lactation consultant. The nurses were so sweet, like always were checking on me and helping me and all of that. We stayed one more night, and then I think we went home the next day. They did ask me if I wanted to stay one more day, and I told them no, and we came home the day after, so the next day. But yeah, I feel like when it's your first baby, they like really like try to help you a lot, just because, you know, it's your first baby. But definitely with Charlotte, it was a different story, so I'll talk about that in another separate video. I also got pregnant the second time 5 months postpartum, so that's an interesting segue into saying, if you're interested in seeing that birth story, I'm gonna film that one probably right after this one and have them up for you guys. So if it's already up, I'll put a card up here, and if it's not, then, you know, stay tuned for that or look for it on my channel. But yeah guys, that's it for this birth story video. If you guys enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. I make lots of different videos on this channel, so go ahead and go through them, see if there's something you're interested in, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!